And so now please welcome the first of our 6 presenters today. So Akhaji Zakiya is research analyst at CMF. Hello, Akhaji.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you. Last year I got to be a participant, and one of the things that excited me the most was circularity. So it's great to follow that panel. My name is Akhaji Zakiya, and I am a research analyst at CMF's Strategy and Business Intelligence Unit. And we are a proud sponsor of this lightning round idea boost today. And I'd like to get it started with some suggestions and some insights into what we've seen in the data from productions across the country. So I'm hoping that the clicker works. If I click the right place, off we go. Today I'll quickly share what the CMS has been doing, as I mentioned, and we've implemented a number of incentives, so we'll give you some data on how those are being tracked. And we'll also spotlight 2 CMF-funded projects that are leading the way. Then we'll conclude with some resources. Hopefully that will be helpful as you implement this work in your own productions. One of the things that's often interesting, in addition to what sustainable practices are producers implementing, is also this notion of cost savings. And I think those who were here early in the morning heard about the biodiesel, and even though it's a slightly higher charge at a bit 20 cents more per liter is what we were quoted, we also hear about different ways that savings can be garnered throughout the production process, so we'll touch on that. We'll talk a little bit about some trends we've seen, we'll mention the 2 case studies, and we'll conclude with some reports. Back in 2021, language was adopted at the CMF. We began to introduce sustainability costs into our budgets, and we talked to producers about what they were doing so we could get a better sense of the lay of the land. By 2022, we started to poll applicants more formally regarding their intentions in green activities on their productions. And by 2023, we were able to introduce carbon calculators for higher budgeted productions. 2024, we saw sustainability plans being introduced at the application stage and then being reported on post-production. And in 2025, this year, we began to look at some of the data, as I mentioned, and try to cull some meaning from it. So what did we find out? We saw that of the over 1,250 productions, there were 1,250 productions that identified at least one sort of sustainability action at application, and that we had over 200 productions actually submit sustainability plans. We were able to look at 2023 and 2024 data, and I think we can summarize by saying that in addition to sustainability planning, we saw more hiring of green vendors, more training of crew, more eco-certification, greener transportation, and of course carbon tracking, stimulated by some of our policy efforts. So that's some data there, but I think even more interestingly and anecdotally are when we look at what we see in some of the productions. L'Oeil de Cyclone is going on season 4 comedy in Quebec, quite popular, and there were 5 different buckets that we used to assess productions in following with the Producing for the Planet 2024 action report that came out earlier this year. KOTV, and this production in particular, was a top 10 performer. They were able to identify 56 different initiatives on the screen with regard to emissions, waste, infrastructure, and leadership. So they were definitely a leader that we saw. And in particular, they were particularly strong, as we mentioned, in green themes, emission trackings, elimination of single-waste plastics, as well as hiring green vendors in particular. This documentary, however, out of Ontario-based Banger Films, had a slightly different focus. They were in the top 20 performers of the Producing for the Planet Action Report with 45 different initiatives. And you can see there in the bottom right that emissions was their outstanding area where they performed. So these are some general examples, but the question still remains, is this something that's going to lead to cost savings? And in the same Producing for the Planet report that surveyed 70 producers, they did report savings, slight amount of savings, that 51% said yes. And to note that there is a caveat that of the 70 surveyed producers who said yes, 65% reported smaller savings, so less than 10,000 K on the entire budget. But I think we can agree that it's a trend going forward, and as we get more vendors and suppliers on side, we'll be able to realize more cost savings. And I hope throughout today you've been able to hear a number of different ways that different productions have been able to save costs. I want to conclude with some resources. We mentioned the Green Frame report that's coming out for the first time, I believe, later this month. Lisa Clarkson and her team mentioned it. The Producing for the Planet Action report was super helpful for us to see what's happening across the landscape in Canadian production. There's Greening the Screen. There's also When Innovation Meets Sustainability. That's looking at XR games in Quebec in particular. And there's so much more. So thank you for coming. Thanks for your time to listen. There's a lot more idea boosts coming, and we hope to continue the conversation and hear some of your ideas as well. Thank you so much.